Supreme Court allows appeal by Kerala broadcaster Madhyamam, in fact, quashing centres the decision to not renew Kerala broadcaster Media One's license. In fact, a top court says government must convince court over national security concerns when it comes to sealed cover procedure. Critical view cannot be termed anti-establishment. We have Harish joining us on the story. Harish, some sort of a relief here for this media house there. Also, Supreme Court pulling up the government over the kind of control it had. In fact, also saying that critical view cannot be termed anti-establishment. So clearly pulling up the government.
Yes, very, very serious observations coming in while the Supreme Court has lifted the telecast ban on the Media One channel. Remember, while reserving the judgment in November last year itself, Supreme Court had remarked government should make out a very clear case that disclosure of information to affected parties will seriously affect national security before passing on material to the court in sealed cover. Today, the Supreme Court has quashed the centre's refusal to grant security clearance to Malayalam channel Media One, pulled up the MHA for raising national security claim in thin air. Supreme Court allowed the appeals filed by Madhyamam Broadcasting Limited against centre's decision to not renew the broadcasting license. Supreme Court has very significantly laid down comprehensive guidelines for courts while adopting sealed cover procedure during hearing matters related to national security. It said government has to first convince the court of national security and then justify how such concerns override the principle of natural justice. And Supreme Court also very clearly said there is nothing to show terrorist links of the channel. National security claims cannot be made on the basis of thin air. It is seen as none of the material is against national security or threatens public order. Critical views of a media organization can't be termed anti-establishment. Supreme Court has very significantly also said centre can't claim absolute immunity against investigative reports when such reports impact rights of people and entities. And Supreme Court has also very clearly said that MHA relied on reports of channel on CAA, NRC, criticism of judiciary, state, etc. to state that it is anti-establishment. We don't think these are justifiable grounds. Press has a duty to speak truth to power and inform citizens about hard facts. The critical views of the channel against the government policies cannot be termed as anti-establishment. This view presumes that press should always support the government. Very, very significant observations coming in from the Supreme Court, and very clearly said an independent press is necessary for a robust democracy. The criticism of the policies of the government cannot be stretched to mean any of the grounds under Article 19(2) which can restrict free speech. So there cannot be free speech, and also said that criticism of the view presume that press should always support the government. And what is important is that this observation of the Supreme Court that the critical views of the channel against government policies cannot be termed as anti-establishment. The press has a duty to speak truth to power and inform citizens about hard facts. So very, very significant observations coming in from the Supreme Court bench led by Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, while the Supreme Court has, in fact, just now delivered the judgment quashing centre's refusal to grant security clearance to Malayalam news channel Media One. Back to you.
Right, certainly. So that's a big breaking update that we are getting. Supreme Court, in fact, lifting the telecast ban on Media One. A big development there, and some very important observations also being made by the Apex Court at the moment. In fact, a top court saying government must convince court over national security concerns when it comes to sealed cover procedure. Critical views cannot be termed anti-establishment. Government cannot claim immunity on investigative reports. Such reports impact rights of people and entities. So that's a breaking update we are getting. We have Javed Ansari, a senior journalist, with us. Mr. Ansari, Supreme Court has allowed appeal by Kerala broadcaster Madhyamam. A very big development there, where top court has made certain big observations saying that national security concerns when it comes to sealed cover procedure, critical view cannot be termed anti-establishment. So in a way, this is a relief to the media organization and could set some sort of precedence as well in the days to come.
Well, hopefully, and hopefully it will drive some sense into the government at the center and in the states which are clamping down on the media. The fact is that nobody likes an independent media. They only like an independent media so long as you sing praises. the moment you hold a critical view, and they've now started misusing this secessionist act. Every time there is something, this complaint is, this tag is put on the media. I'm very, very happy that the Supreme Court has clearly enunciated what it has, and hopefully the government will draw the right lessons and refrain from clamping down on the media.
Right, certainly a big development as far as freedom of expression is concerned. Mr. Ansari, do you think this was much needed? You said that this is a welcome, a move, or rather an observation that could perhaps, make the center or the government, rethink as far as trampling down on media is concerned, because we've seen the kind of action taken against the BBC and several other channels as well. So do you think this is much needed and comes at the right time?
Yes, this was long overdue. This kind of remarks, this judgment would have come much earlier, because media should. Media has been under tremendous pressure in this country, increasingly, and all these kinds of labels that are put on us every time. The government must realize, and they must know, that being anti-government is not anti-Indian. You being critical of government does not mean that you're critical, that you're against the country. This is the media and the government always must have an adversarial role. You can't be pally-vally. They have the PIB, they have their own the state-run media to carry out their handouts. Our role is to ask questions, and you ask questions of those who are in power, of those who take decisions. And I'm glad. I must say once again, I'm very happy with this judgment. I'm very happy with what the Supreme Court has observed, and I hope the Information and Broadcasting Ministry and those in power will realize and take a step back. I hope this drives some sense into all those who are in power, those at the center as also in the states.
All right, Mr. Ansari, thank you for joining us with all your thoughts on that. Clearly a big observation that is being made by the Supreme Court there while upholding the centre's ban. In fact, while setting aside Kerala High Court's order on upholding centre's ban, in fact, directing renewal of Malayalam news channel Media One in 4 weeks as well. Supreme Court lifting the telecast ban on Media One, while also making some important observations. Critical views cannot be termed anti-establishment. Government cannot claim immunity on investigative reports. Such reports impact rights of people and entities. National security cannot be raised to deny people's right. So big observations there being made by top court saying government must convince court over national security concerns when it comes to sealed cover procedure. Supreme Court, in fact, allowing appeal by Kerala broadcaster Madhyamam, quashing centre's decision to not renew Kerala broadcaster Media One's license. In fact, a top court is saying government must convince courts over national security concerns when it comes to sealed cover procedure. Critical view cannot be termed anti-establishment. In fact, a Supreme Court quashing centre's refusal to grant a security clearance to Media One, pulling up MHA for raising national security claim in thin air. Critical views of a media organization cannot be termed anti-establishment. That's what the Chief Justice of India has said. Very, very important, pertinent observations being made in terms of freedom of speech and expression, and at a time when action is being taken against several media houses within the country by the centre. Supreme Court saying centre cannot claim absolute immunity against investigative reports when such reports impact rights of people and entities. National security cannot be raised to deny people their rights. It was raised by the MHA in a cavalier manner in this case. Important observations are being made while quashing centre's decision to not renew Kerala broadcaster Media One's license. Supreme Court allowing the appeal by Madhyamam. So that's the breaking update that we are getting from the Apex Court at the moment. Supreme Court allowing appeal by Kerala broadcaster Madhyamam. It has in fact gone ahead and quashed the centre's decision to not renew Media One's license. In fact, several pertinent observations are being made there. Government must convince court over national security concerns when it comes to sealed cover procedure. All right, we have Neerja Chaudhary, a senior journalist, also joining us on the story. Ms. Chaudhary, very important observation being made at a time when there is a lot of action being taken against several media houses in the country. There is a trampling down as far as freedom of expression is concerned. At that point, Supreme Court allowing this appeal, quashing centre's decision to not renew this channel's license and so on. How do you analyze and read these observations? Do you think this was much needed?
Yes, I think it is needed, and it's a reiteration of what the role of the media is. It is to show the mirror to the government. It is to hold the government accountable, certainly to criticize, and that's the spirit in which the government is expected to take it and should take it. That's part of our democratic way of life, functioning, a democracy that we've been proud of. So the Supreme Court has once again reiterated what we have known to be true. And people have been worried about the erosion of those rights in recent months and years. Years, over a whole period. It's not just recent months and years. So yes, I think it's a very important judgment.
Certainly a very important judgment. Also, Ms. Chaudhary, do you think, there will be some sort of hope that there will be control that will be exercised by the centre, after this judgment? Do you think in the days to come, this could set a precedent and perhaps, media will be treated independently in the days to come? Do you think that there will be some sort of control that will be exercised by the centre post this judgment? Do you think this will set some sort of precedence in the months to come?
Yes, I absolutely hope that will happen. And I think from our side in the media also, I think we have also to be scrupulously fair, objective, do rigorous work, research, and so that we also uphold the highest possible standards of the media, that we also don't work to agendas, which, the politicians sometimes accuse us of. So I think, and certainly the government, to appreciate the role of the media in a democratic society.
Certainly, Ms. Chaudhary, thank you so much for joining us with your thoughts. Supreme Court lifting centre's ban on Media One and also slamming the centre and saying cannot make national security claims out of thin air. Very important observations being made by the Apex Court.